In our headlines on this Tuesday afternoon, November 28th. The vote that decides the host city of the 2030 World Expo is fewer than 10 hours away. And Team Korea, according to President Yoon Suk-yeol, has been running united as government officials, corporate leaders and ordinary citizens seek to bring the global event to Busan. Meanwhile, Pyongyang is putting into action its pledge to reinstate all military activities along the inter-Korean border that had been restricted by a security pact signed with Seoul back in 2018, and now officials here have vowed to do the same. Over in the Middle East, Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas have agreed to extend their 4 days of ceasefire by 2 more days to allow for more exchanges of hostages for prisoners. We are now counting down the hours to a crucial vote over in Paris that will seal the fate of Busan's bid to bring home the 2030 World Expo. Our Lee Seung-jae starts us off.
Busan is ready. It's the theme of Busan's campaign to bring the 2030 World Expo to the southeastern port city, and the message the South Korean delegation is trying to deliver to the voting members of the Bureau International des Expositions. The delegation, led by South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-soo and business leaders, are making a last-minute pitch in Paris before the voting takes place in the city on Tuesday. Many expect a very close race until the very last day, with Saudi Arabia's Riyadh in the lead so far. However, the South Korean government is hoping that if the Saudi capital cannot receive the 2/3 of the votes it needs to win, it will lead to a runoff vote where South Korea could potentially take a large chunk of the Rome votes to win the bid. If 2/3 of all 182 member countries, totaling more than 122 votes, are obtained in the first round, the winner will be announced. It may be a two-way race despite Rome, Italy being one of the candidates, as Italian media outlet La Repubblica reported that the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni did not take part in the General Assembly in the French capital. Ahead of the secret vote, each candidate country will also be given time for a final 20-minute presentation. Former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon is said to be one of the speakers representing Korea. And according to officials, Prime Minister Han is pushing to highlight the country's vision to transform the World Expo into a platform addressing humanity's challenges, including war and conflict, the digital divide, and climate change. The results of the vote will be announced sometime between midnight and 1 a.m. Wednesday, Korea Standard Time. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Indeed, just as mentioned in that report, just before the ballot by members of the International Bureau of Expositions, each candidate city will be offered the chance for a final presentation to promote its bid. Our Yoon reports.
The host city of the World Expo 2030 will be selected on Tuesday by the member states of the BIE at its 173rd General Assembly held in France. The meeting is scheduled to start at 9 in the morning with Expo progress reports. Then in the following order, the Republic of Korea's Busan, Italy's Rome, and Saudi Arabia's Riyadh will give their fifth and final presentations on their Expo projects for about 20 minutes each. Following this, the 182 member states will cast their sole votes for the World Expo 2030 host city. A candidate must get 2/3 of the votes cast to be selected outright. If no candidate achieves this target, there will be a second round of voting after the third-placed candidate is eliminated, and the winner of a simple majority will be selected. The voting is scheduled for 4 p.m. local time, midnight on Wednesday in South Korea. Shortly after the voting is completed, the results will be revealed through the BIE's official account on X, formerly known as Twitter. Professor Lee Shin-hwa from Korea University shared with Arirang News her hopeful speculations on what message the final presentation should convey at this stage of the bid. Although Riyadh's bid, backed with a budget of over 7 billion euros, will not be easy to beat, Professor Lee said that she hopes Busan's representatives will give inspiring speeches and share the city's hopeful energy with others.
I'm hoping that Busan will be able to show its convening power to other candidates through its own success story in terms of economic, political, and cultural development. Events like expos act as a learning platform where countries share their unique potential and hold a national discourse. I believe Busan is a perfect place to be a bridge for other cities to share their success stories and vision.
Amid growing interest in who will be on stage for the final presentation, internationally influential individuals are expected, with people anticipating mentions of BTS to Ban Ki-moon, the former UN Secretary General. Lee In-hee, Arirang News.
And here in Seoul, President Yoon Suk-yeol says a united Korean team, including government officials, corporate leaders, and ordinary citizens, will seek to sprint to the finish line. Speaking at a cabinet meeting earlier on this Tuesday, the president added hosting the World Expo would serve to facilitate balanced regional growth. With regard to this year's APEC gathering, President Yoon reiterated its relevance given South Korea's reliance on trade. And as for his state visit to the UK, he touched upon the promotion of bilateral ties to a new strategic partnership for fresh opportunities. In other news, Pyongyang claims its spy satellite has sent more images of U.S. military bases, while in New York, the UN Security Council fails to reach a consensus on condemning North Korea for its latest violations of the Council's resolutions. Our Ian Jin reports.
North Korea's state-run media reported on Tuesday that leader Kim Jong-un received photographs from the National Aerospace Technology Administration on Monday and Tuesday. The pictures taken by the regime's Mallikyung-1 military reconnaissance satellite included images of the Norfolk Naval Base, Newport News Shipyard, and an airfield, all in the U.S. state of Virginia, as well as images of major military bases in South Korea and the U.S., none of which have been made public yet. On Monday, the 15-member UN Security Council met to discuss the November 21st spy satellite launch, during which the Assistant Secretary General for the Middle East, Asia, and the Pacific called the North's launch a serious threat to aviation and maritime traffic. South Korea, present as an interested party, the U.S. and others condemned the launch as a violation of UN Security Council resolutions, which banned the regime from any launch using ballistic missile technology. However, the session failed to produce any joint statement due to opposition from China and Russia. At the end of the session, the United Nations ambassadors of the United States and North Korea became embroiled in a spat at the table, showing a rare, direct, and public exchange between the adversaries.
The DPRK claims it's acting in self-defense, but the self-defense really does not stand here, as the U.S. and ROK military exercises, as you know, are routine and they're defensive in nature. Unlike the DPRK's launches using ballistic missile technology, these actions are not prohibited by UN Security Council resolutions.
One belligerent party, the United States, is threatening us with a nuclear weapon. It is legitimate right for the DPRK as another belligerent party to develop, test, manufacture, and possess weapon system equivalent to those that the United States have already possessed and or developing right now.
South Korean ambassador to the UN, Hwang Jung-guk, said that Pyongyang is now almost mocking the Security Council. Lee In-jin, Arirang News.
And Pyongyang is also putting into action its pledge to reinstate all military activities along the border that had been restricted by a security pact signed with Seoul back in 2018. Well, Seoul, for its part, has shared intentions to do the same. Our Kim Jong-sil has details.
The South Korean military has detected that North Korea has recently been working to restore its guard posts in the demilitarized zone right after it announced last week that it would restore all military measures and basically terminate the September 19 Inter-Korean military agreement.
North Korea declared the complete abolition of the September 9th military agreement on November 23rd. And since November 24th, the regime has been implementing measures to restore its military activities.
Pictures revealed by the military on Monday showed that North Korea has dispatched soldiers and heavy weapons to restore its surveillance posts near the inter-Korean border. North Korean soldiers were also spotted on guard duty at night. Under the 2018 Inter-Korean military agreement, North Korea destroyed 10 out of its 11 guard posts near the border as part of efforts to reduce tensions. However, restoration efforts are now being seen at all 11 guard posts. The military added that North Korea's provocations have worsened near the maritime border as well, as the number of opened coastal artillery gun posts has significantly increased. South Korea's defense ministry says the military will be fully prepared to immediately implement countermeasures.
We clearly state that our military is closely monitoring North Korea's provocations and is fully prepared to punish North Korea immediately, strongly, and to the end, based on Seoul and Washington's strengthened joint defense posture.
In response to Pyongyang's restoration of frontline guard posts, Deputy Principal National Security Advisor Kim Tae-hyo said the South Korean army plans to do the same. The security advisor told KBS on Monday that South Korea must not stay quiet when North Korea is armed and threatening us at the guard posts. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
Over in the Middle East, Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas have agreed to extend their ceasefire by 2 more days to allow for more hostage prisoner exchanges. Our Choi Min-jung has the latest.
The 4-day humanitarian pause in Gaza, which was set to end on Tuesday, has been extended for another 2 days. Qatar's foreign ministry confirmed the agreement on Monday without giving too much detail. A senior Israeli advisor said Hamas will release 10 hostages each day under the terms of the agreement. The White House said it welcomed the extension.
Now, in order to extend the pause, Hamas has committed to releasing another 20 women and children over the next 2 days. We would, of course, hope to see the pause extended further, and that will depend upon Hamas continuing to release hostages.
U.S. President Joe Biden also released a statement stressing that related parties would take full advantage of the pause in fighting to increase the amount of humanitarian aid moving into Gaza. Biden also vowed to continue U.S. efforts to build a future of peace and dignity for the Palestinian people. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres described the extension as hopeful, but warned that it still does not give enough time to meet humanitarian needs in Gaza.
It's a glimpse of hope and humanity in the middle of the darkness of war, knowing that even with that additional amount of time, it will be impossible to satisfy all the dramatic needs of the population in Gaza.
On the 4th day of the truce on Monday, the Israeli military confirmed the release of an additional 11 Israeli hostages. Qatar's foreign ministry said the hostages include 3 French citizens, 2 German citizens, and 6 Argentinian citizens. Over the first 3 days of the truce, Hamas released more than 50 hostages, mostly women and children. Israel freed over 100 Palestinians from prison. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Consumers here in the country are responding tangibly to high interest rates and inflation. According to the Bank of Korea on this Tuesday, the Composite Consumer Sentiment Index for November shed 0.9 points to 97.2 on month, falling for the 4th month in a row. The index gauges current and future prospects about the cost of living. A reading below 100 indicates more pessimism than optimism. The number of young Koreans is dwindling at a rapid rate as more of them choose to stay unmarried and childless. According to Statistics Korea back on Monday, the number of those aged between 19 and 34 is forecast to fall by half by the year 2050, as over 4 out of every 5 of those in this age bracket were unmarried as of 2020. In particular, over 56% of 30 to 34-year-olds were unmarried, 3 times higher than the figure recorded in the year 2000. In 1990, young people made up almost a third of the total population. 30 years later, in 2020, that proportion was just over 1/5. By 2050, young Koreans are expected to account for just 11%. Korean companies are being provided with a platform to partake in overseas development projects. Seoul's Ministries of Economy and Industry are co-hosting the Multilateral Development Bank Project Plaza here in Seoul on this Tuesday and Wednesday to offer local businesses the chance to meet with foreign officials to pitch for projects supported by the bank's $40 billion fund. The fund comes from various sources, including the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank. Pundits believe a significant chunk of the fund will seek to support reconstruction projects in war-torn Ukraine. A local startup has developed an attachable AI kit that can transform conventional farm equipment to autonomous machinery. Our Chung Won-ju explains.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs organized a startup contest last October, which was participated in by 568 startup teams with promising technologies in the field of agriculture and food. Among the top 10 teams that reached the finals, a venture company garnered attention in the field of autonomous agricultural machinery. This company presented a solution that can transform traditional agricultural equipment into autonomous machinery by simply attaching an artificial intelligence kit with cameras and GPS sensors. Their technology is proficient at maneuvering not only rectangular or polygonal farmland, but also curved sections with an accuracy range of within 3 centimeters. The greatest advantage of the technology is that it can be applied to various agricultural machines, such as tractors, rice transplanters, and combine harvesters. Test results showed a 50% reduction in labor and a 32% reduction in working hours when using the artificial intelligence kit.
What sets us apart is that our product can not only move forward, but also reverse and perform turns. Ultimately, it can autonomously drive across the entire farmland without any manual intervention.
The company has set an ambitious goal to make the owners of 40,000 of the 370,000 agricultural machines around the country customers within the next 2 years. Rural administrators are planning to expand the adoption of the kits as anyone with basic digital literacy can use the new technology.
To support young companies that aim to commercialize such initiatives and expand their funding and market opportunities, the Rural Development Administration plans to provide funding for business development.
Venture technologies are injecting new vitality into rural areas, which are struggling with an aging population, a shortage of workers, and rising labor costs. Chung Won-ju, Arirang News.
K-pop rookie girl group BABYMONSTER has topped several iTunes Top Songs charts globally with its debut single Bat Up released on Monday. According to its agency YG Entertainment, the group ranked first in the charts in 14 countries, including Thailand, Chile and Vietnam. It was also the first K-pop band this year to place its debut song in the top 50 of the US Top Songs chart. The song's music video also reached over 26 million views after its release on Monday. Now, BABYMONSTER is a new 6-member girl group signed to YG, 7 years after Blackpink debuted in the year 2016.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. New Zealand's new Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, was sworn into office on Monday. His new government says it plans to repeal the strict tobacco restrictions that were only approved last year. The coalition government was formed last Friday after long negotiations between Luxon's National Party, the Libertarian ACT New Zealand and Populist New Zealand First. Luxon says his top priority was improving the economy, promising to deliver tax cuts and training more police officers. But it also plans to scrap the banning of cigarette sales next year to anyone born after 2008, a legislation that only passed last year by the previous centre-left government under former Prime Minister Ardern. In the US, the suspect in the shooting of 3 Palestinian-American students in Vermont pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of attempted murder in the second degree on Monday. The 48-year-old suspect, Jason J. Eaton, is accused of shooting the 3 men on Saturday, close to the University of Vermont campus, following a Thanksgiving holiday gathering. Authorities say the suspect approached the students and fired off at least 4 rounds before fleeing the scene. All 3 remain in hospital. The U.S. Attorney General said the FBI is investigating whether the shooting was a hate crime. Ahead of the COP28 climate summit, the World Health Organization published a press release on Monday voicing the urgency of taking climate action to mitigate the impact of climate change on global health. The WHO quoted a 2023 IPCC report that showed nearly half of the global population, about 3.5 billion people, are living in areas of high vulnerability to climate change. WHO figures also show that in the past 2 decades, heat-related deaths in the global elderly population of over 65 years have increased by 70%. The WHO said a record number of health ministers will be attending COP28 and that the global health community is demanding a commitment to building resilient health systems, reducing emissions, and prioritizing health. In Peru, local authorities on Monday conducted the country's 4th massive illegal drug burn this year. The Peruvian Interior Minister Victor Torres commented that they are incinerating around 19,215 kilograms of illicit narcotics, of which more than 50% is cocaine. Torres also announced that in 2023 alone, the Peruvian authorities destroyed 771 drug laboratories, 65 clandestine airstrips, and dismantled 115 criminal organizations in the narcotics trafficking business. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Hello, I'm Lee Ji-yeon with the latest weather updates. We need to brace for a big freeze from today and throughout the rest of the week. The morning started off colder than yesterday and highs also won't rise that much. And on Thursday, we'll see morning temperatures going down to as low as -7 degrees Celsius here in the capital. A dry weather advisory is in place for the East Coast, and a strong wind watch has also been issued in mountainous regions in Gangwon-do Province. So please, fire caution is a must. Afternoon highs should be 3 to 8 degrees lower than yesterday. Seoul tops out at just 3 degrees this afternoon, but not much to complain about for those in Busan and Jeju, topping out at 12 and 13 degrees respectively. We should have more sunshine than clouds today. Meanwhile, bad dust levels in Daegu and Jeju should improve as the day goes on. Then there will be a mix of rain and snow across Korea for the remainder of the week, along with icy cold temperatures. So please take well care. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions. On that note, we end our Tuesday afternoon newscast. But do stay with us for our panel session coming up right after this break. Thank you for now.